In this section, we'll be talking about what I consider the obvious, but we discussed this a little bit in the introduction. However, these are the easiest ways to be eliminated from the interview process. So I think it's just important that we cover these things. I can't not tell you how many times the things we will cover in this section are missed by interview candidates. And I think it's mostly because we're just not interview experts. We do it every once in a great while, and nobody's going to be an expert when they do it that rarely. So let's get started. So by the end of this lesson, we'll cover the simple items. There's no reason to get eliminated. If you're a good candidate, let's not let the little things get you eliminated. Let's get you all the way to the finish line. And let's get you ready for what we call a good interview. So we're not going to revisit the obvious here. It's you dressed professionally or appropriately. If you're going in for a manual labor job, you may not want to be in a suit and tie, suit and no tie. You may need to dress more appropriately for that position or that interview to show that you're ready to do that job. But I don't think it hurts. You don't want to show up in a tux, but I don't think it hurts to dress a little bit above professional or business casual for an interview. You're trying to make a really good impression. You need to say, I'm here to go all out to show you that I really want this job. I want this position. You want to meet them with a firm handshake. You need to make eye contact. You don't need to over squeeze. You're not trying to win an arm wrestling match. You don't need to be the limp fish. You need to come in with a firm handshake and just be done with it. Don't overthink it, but also don't underthink it. Again, check your resume for misspellings and grammar. You want to get eliminated? Have something. They're looking for communication skills as one of the keys to every job you're going to have. And if you can't double check your resume for a grammar or misspelling, how are you going to check a very important email going to a customer? So check it, have somebody else check it, get it checked. This is the easiest way. This is the most common way people get eliminated from even getting the interview. And check for what we'll call lies, but what most times I find are just embellishments that go way, way back. At one point, you didn't have a lot on your resume, and you're like, I'm going to bump this up a little bit. And then it got bumped up a little bit more. And then before you knew it, it was really not what you had worked at or had done. So get it off there. It just doesn't belong. Don't have anything on there that you didn't accomplish. If you need help, there are resume services out there that will help you build up your resume for what you've actually done. You don't need to sit there and lie about the things you haven't done. Tell them the things you have done. Every one of you out there has things that are important that you need to have on your resume that you did and you accomplished. Get those on there. All right, what to bring with you. This is going to shock all of you. Because I can tell you, I can't remember the last interview I held with a candidate where they brought all these things. And when I show you what they are, you're going to be like, you got to be kidding me. And then if you think about the last interview you went on, you probably didn't bring at least one of these things also. So don't be too harsh in your judgment. Bring your resume. I know that you probably feel like, well, I've emailed it 14 times. All these people have access to it. That's all true. You want to get this job? Make it easy for them. If you know how many people you're interviewing with, bring that many copies, plus one for yourself. Bring extras. Bring 20 copies. It doesn't matter. Bring copies of your resume. That way, if somebody doesn't have one, you're Johnny on the spot. Here's my resume. Here it is. Don't assume that everybody's got it. Bring the most current copy. Maybe they've got an old copy that you didn't even realize they got from somewhere that they shouldn't have had to begin with. Here's the current copy that I've put time and effort into. This is what you need to be working off of. Bring something to write on, notebook, and a pen. I can't tell you how many people show up with just a phone and nothing else. I'm not kidding, nothing else. How can you write down, in previous sections, or in upcoming sections, we're going to talk about that behavioral interview where you write the question down so that you don't get off track. How are you going to write that down and remember it? You just want to write something to write notes on, something When you ask your questions in the interview, where are you writing those answers? How are you going to remember how they answered? You're just going to remember it? I don't trust my memory. You shouldn't trust yours. Have a notebook and something to write on. It's that simple. Bring your references. This is one that I doubt any of you are doing today. Your resume probably, like most, says references and then underneath available upon request. That's fine. That's normal. If the interview is going great and somebody goes, hey, we're going to want to take this to next steps, we're going to want your references, wouldn't it be wonderful if you could say, do you want them right now? And they go, sure. And you, here they are. There's your references. Wouldn't that be a wonderful situation for you? How good would you look handing them your references upon request, like it says on your resume? They requested, you gave them. Have your references already with you. Have the job description. We talked about this previous where you've researched the job description, the job itself. If there are questions that you have about the job and they go, we don't understand why you're asking that. Well, it says right here in the job description that you want blah, 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 blah. Oh, well, that's a typo. I promise you, you will be talking to people who probably either A, never saw the job description, or B, didn't write the job description. Maybe HR put something in there that was incorrect, and they can very quickly help you dispel that. You may want to bring them a copy of the job description so that they can edit it right there for you and say, you don't need to worry about this, you don't need to worry about this, but it says on here you can work from home, and we don't allow that. This department doesn't allow that. That's a company thing that they put in by mistake. Wouldn't that be wonderful to know if working from home was important to you and all of a sudden you find out in that meeting, you find out now in the interview that it's not allowed versus waiting till you get hired to find out it's not allowed. That's a huge issue. Bring the job description with you. It's a working document for both parties to be involved with. Bring extra copies because, again, they might not have seen it actually. I know that's hard to believe, but it's the truth. If you are doing video interviews, this day and age, Zoom, Teams, not uncommon for video interviews to take place. Prepare your background. You do not want any distractions behind you. You need to plan time and look at what's actually behind you. They don't need to see a messy bed. They don't need to see any kind of bed. They don't need to see unkept living room furniture. I've had people who have their video on in situations where we don't need to see what's going on behind there. I don't need to see your washer and dryer. I don't need, put up some kind of screen. Get in a room, move your camera to a place that's just a corner if you need to. You can point it at a corner of two walls. It's okay. But make sure you know what people are seeing behind you. You don't want something embarrassing sitting out behind you. You just don't need that. And you certainly don't need literally your dirty laundry out there for people to understand what's going on. I've actually had those situations. Still make sure you're dressed appropriately. If you spill coffee on yourself or something and you jump up and they see that you're not wearing pants or you're in swimsuit or shorts or what, it doesn't even matter. Dress appropriately. Just be dressed like you are at the interview. Don't say, well, I'm going to get lazy here and wear sweatpants with whatever else I'm wearing. You can do that, but in the event that you accidentally stand up or you go walk to close a door or who knows what's going on or what could happen, then all of a sudden it's like, hey man, nice sweatpants. Is that the impression you want to leave? You want to, even though they might find it funny and not a big deal, you don't want to leave that to chance. It's a small detail. Wear everything that you would wear to the interview. That way it doesn't look like you're going to half it just because you might be working from home. Close off all distractions. There should be no way for people to walk behind you. Nobody should be coming into the room you're in. You should have a conversation with roommates, spouses, kids, whomever. This is a no entry. Lock the door if you have to. Most bedrooms have door locks. Lock the doors. Don't allow for people just to come in and come out. No distractions, no noise, no anything. the doorbell rings, let it ring. They can keep ringing it. Unless your house is on fire and they're beating on the door, there's no reason you should have any distractions that should come up during the interview. Phone interviews, very similar. Be in a quiet place. When the only sensory I have of this interview, and I'm the interviewer of you, is sound, it needs to be just you I hear. I don't need to hear any other background noise. So you need to be in a quiet place. You don't need any distractions there. Make sure your cell phone signal is strong. You need to check out the area you're going to work from. If you're going to work from, let's say you work you're going to take your interview from a library study room because you're taking my advice. You're going to go to a very quiet place. And I'm going to close the door. And once I'm in there, nobody can get in and I can have a great interview. And then your cell phone drops 14 times during the interview and they finally just get frustrated and say, we're good. We're good. Thanks for your time. Don't do that. Wherever you're going to be to take the phone interview, check the cell signal ahead of time. Just check it. Make sure it works. It's a simple test. Make sure you got good cell phone coverage. If it's a internet outage or a cell phone outage at the time of your interview company, the interviewing company should be understanding. But what you don't want to do is an area you should have checked out ahead of time. Oh, I don't get good cell phone coverage from my house. Then don't be taking the call from your house. Don't be taking that interview from your house if you don't have good cell coverage at your house. Make sure your Wi-Fi works for Wi-Fi coverage if you have to. Do the things, check the small things. It shows that you are taking initiative to not let something simple like cell phone coverage ruin your chances of getting the job. Again, close off all distractions. Maybe you're traveling and you have no choice. What you don't want are paging at the airport going on in the background while you're trying to do your interview. You've got to find a better place to be closed off from. And if you're going to be in a situation, let's say that you have no choice. I'm traveling. Let them know, hey, I will be traveling. I will be at the airport. It will be noisy. If this is their requirement to meet on that day for that interview, then they're making that decision that it's going to be what it's going to be. But if you've set expectations around, I can't control this, that's different. So make sure you're setting those expectations if that's what has to occur. But if it's in your control, close off all distractions and all noise. So, a reminder, what's a bad interview? They ask, you answer, next question. That's like a bad cocktail party conversation. You don't want that. Or at the end, I can't tell you how many times this has occurred in interviews I've been a part of. Any questions? Nope, I'm good. And the interview candidates hardly asked any questions at all. How can I take it that they are interested in this job at all if they have no questions about what's going on? The place they're getting ready to spend more time than they do anywhere else on earth at your job, doing work, and you have no questions? How serious are you about this job? I have different questions about what's going on. So let's talk about let's remind what a good interview is. It's conversational. You ask a question, I answer, or I ask a question, you answer. You ask a question, I answer. It's back and forth. It's conversational. It is a more mature interview. It's what every managerial interview should be. You should have a back and forth. You should have a pace. You're not trying to match them question for question, but where you can fit in your questions, this is an opportunity. Hey, I answered a question, now I've got a question for you, especially if you can bridge it to the topic that they've just been on. Maybe you've got a question about the company and they ask a question that just locks right in and it gives you an opportunity. Hey, that brings up a point. I've got a question. What about this? It makes it conversational and that will make you more memorable in their eyes. When a question is asked, you're going to use stories. And by stories, you're using your storytelling on things that have actually happened. So these are true stories. They need to be brief. If you're a person that runs on at the mouth, I've had people that love to talk. They can kill 20 minutes like that. Be brief and to the point and be true. Do not tell fictional stories. Those will catch up to you. In conclusion, do not miss These are the obvious things. Do not miss the easy things that can remove you from the interview. And don't forget, give a good interview in terms of make it conversational. Have your questions ready to go to ask the interviewer. I also have questions. I'm interested in this job, but I want to know about the company. I want to know about the job. I want to know about the manager. These are questions that are very easy for you to prepare and be ready with when you get into the interview. Your action item, please, please, please check your resume. Get all the grammar and spelling mistakes out of it and get the inaccurate information out of it. You do not want to be a part of a conversation that says, sit down, we need to have a conversation after you've just been hired, and somebody brings you in their office and says, sit down, we've got to talk about something that we found on your resume that's inaccurate. That will most likely lead to termination. You don't need that. You've worked very hard to get the job. Don't let one of these things take you out.